I really don't want to make this type of video because I make one every single week and it's normally the same thing about the spoilers. But this week I mean it more than I ever have. Maybe like, at Kansas, if I said the spoiler, we should get rid of it, maybe I don't really mean it there. If I say it about Texas or Kentucky or something like that, I don't really mean it there. But dear God, if there is one racetrack where if I had to choose one single racetrack where we got rid of a gigantic spoiler for 2020, it would be the Martinsville Speedway. It has ruined the type of racing we've seen at Martinsville. So hey everyone, Martinsville weekend was just the past weekend, and as always, Martinsville is the crazy race and maybe one of the wild cards of the chase in both the trucks and the Cup Series. I will talk about the trucks a little bit later on because that is a whole nother beast in and of its own. I don't want to spend too much time on it because I won't have enough time for the Cup race. But I want to talk about the Cup race first because nothing really happened and there's not much to talk about. Really, all there is to talk about is stage number 3. The first two stages of the race were nothing. Denny Hamlin led early on. A caution came out, I think, for debris, and I think there actually was debris though, because the 15 had, was it the 15? I think it was the 15 had contact with the 36, and it had a fender rub and cut some parts off and whatnot. So there was actually debris on the front stretch. On the pit stops, Truex got out in front. So that was the first lead change of the race. Then Truex went on to win stage number 1. Was that the stage where there wasn't I don't know, but one of the stages, Kyle Larson, there was a yellow really, I think it was stage 2. There's a yellow really late in the stage. Everyone came down pit road except for Kyle Larson. Larson's crew said, hey, we'll stay on the racetrack and we'll see what points we get. Considering Larson came in a deficit to make it into the final round, it wasn't too bad of a strategy. If he got some sort of stage points, it would have been a benefit. Larson was going to get 0 stage points with the way it was going. So if he got even 1 stage point, it would have been a 1-point benefit. For Larson, actually went a lot better than what I was expecting, what anyone else was expecting. On the restart, he kind of pulled away, and Martin Truex Jr. did get by him to win stage number 2, but Larson ended up getting 9 points from the stage. He got second in the stage, so it was not a bust at all for Larson. In fact, it was a huge gain. He got 9 points out of it. While 9 points might not seem like a lot, and especially this round, every single point does really matter. So for Larson, that was a good gain, and maybe this was probably his worst track of the round, Martinsville, for sure. I think it's the track where he has his worst average finish in the Cup Series. So to get through Martinsville with a decent day and not be terribly far behind like Chase Elliott is in points, that's probably a win for Larson. Speaking of Chase Elliott, Hendrick Motorsports had another bad day in terms of equipment failure on the 9 team. Remember at Dover where they had that engine issue, put Elliott in the hole in the round of 12, and Elliott barely recovered. Well, now he's in the hole in the round of 8. In first practice, 5 minutes into practice, his car blew up, literally some of the worst I've seen in a long time. The car was on fire. It was pretty terrible. And then here in the race, during a pit stop, they set the car down. Axle broke on the car, so that put Chase in the garage, and he finished back of the pack. He got 1 point out of the day, and he was I think he was 4 laps away from getting 2 more points from the 14 and from the 77. Speaking of Clint Boyer, he didn't have a good day as well, even though he's not in the chase, the playoffs. Even though he's not in the playoffs, he still had one of the better cars of the day, of the race, but it didn't go as planned for Boyer. At one point during the race, he had a flat tire and came down pit road. Crew changed 2 right side tires and let him go back out. Problem was the flat tire was on the left side and not the right side. He goes down to turn 3 and completely just wipes out into the corner. So as you can imagine, Boyer probably wasn't too happy about that, for sure. And he had issues later on in terms of track bar and tire rubs and flat tires and all that, so he just had a miserable Martinsville race. One of the other big points about the race was, I would call it the big crash that we saw on the front stretch involving Kyle Busch, Eric Almirola, Jimmy Johnson, and some others that piled in behind. So Racing off into turn 3 and 4, Almirola gave Kyle Busch a little bit of a bump at the racetrack. It almost looked identical to the finish last season, except it wasn't as big of a bump as that. Busch went at the racetrack, Almirola got to his inside. As Almirola was making the pass, Busch turns down into the side of Eric, which ends up turning them both sideways, and literally almost a carbon copy of what we saw as the finish last year. Both the cars got sideways off the corner, except Kyle Busch, I don't know what happened, but he ended up spinning around, and then him spinning around caught Almirola, who then went back towards the outside wall, who then spun down to the inside. Both those cars spun around. Drivers like Suarez and Harvick did a great job avoiding. Same with Kyle Larson. He barely got through, but Jimmy Johnson wasn't as fortunate. He got involved pretty hard. It took Eric out of the race. Kyle Busch got some damage, fell back. He ended up finishing, I think, inside the top 10. He recovered. He didn't have fenders on both sides of the car, which probably did help him. Cooled the tires down probably some. During his post-race interview, Eric Almirola said that there's 3 weeks left. In those 3 weeks, he's going to try and make a living hell for Kyle Busch. So we'll see how that goes at Texas ISM and Homestead. Busch obviously still fighting for the championship. Almirola is not. So for Kyle Busch, I don't think it was too wise to do what he did, to be perfectly honest with you. It was just kind of like, he bumped you, yeah, but that's short track racing, man, and that's one of the only ways you're going to make a pass with a gigantic spoiler on the rear at a track where you have to make, the turns that you make. So, for Kyle to really do that, I don't understand why he got so mad about it. I mean, it's just short track racing. There's going to be some bumping and banging. I mean, Kyle Busch is not, Kyle Busch isn't the saint on the racetrack. Like, sometimes he acts like he is. Like, someone bumps him and he gets all pissy, but he would be the first to get out of the corner and spin someone out for something they did. So, I just don't really get it. He's kind of been, like, in a bad place, I'm guessing, in life. The past few months, from what the rumors are and from what some people are speculating and kind of nudging towards, is that he's had a bad personal life the past few months. That's not really anything I want to get into. That's none of my business. That's something that I would get into only if it came from a source of the family of the Bushes or Kyle Busch himself or Samantha Busch, but I mean, has that contributed to his on-track performance? It's possible. He hasn't won since June. Obviously, that's going to make him mad as is. If he has some issues, other than racing issues, then that would make it even worse. But off of that topic, speaking of fights, I guess, Joey Logano and Denny Hamlin were none too happy with each other. So Hamlin in the final stage really kind of drove like a maniac, which you have to do at short tracks, obviously. I mean, that is the mentality of driving at a short track. You have to drive like a maniac. Denny Hamlin, coming off turn 4, squeezed Joey Logano into the wall. Like, literally, if you've ever seen the Casey Kane Bristol crash or the Martin Truex Jr. Richmond crash, where they climbed the wall in the Xfinity Series, you'll understand what this looked like. Hamlin kind of put Logano to the wall. The 22 got up in the air a little bit and like rode the wall just a little bit. Never really got like onto his side, but like did catch some air on the right side, which, I mean, if Hamlin kept coming up, he definitely probably would have been squeezed into the wall and on his side. So that was crazy. Logano ended up cutting a tire a little bit later on, slowing the pack, saved his car somehow in 3 and 4, and then looped the car on purpose in 1 and 2, which was the smartest thing to do. He was going to go a lap down or 2 regardless. So spinning the car around, I think he stayed on the lead lap. Later in the race, Logano got up to finish, I think, 8th. Hamlin got 4th. Truex ended up taking the checker flag ahead of Willie B. So William Byron got 2nd. I want to talk about him because not much is really made about William Byron. Obviously, like, people are like, oh, Truex won his 7th race of the season. He's into the final round. He has, weeks to prepare for it. They're talking about, the Denny Hamlin, Joe Logano thing, Kyle Busch stuff, and Eric Almirola. But no one really talking about William Byron, who got 2nd place at Martinsville in only his 2nd season of Cup Series racing, which is phenomenal. Martinsville is historically the place for, newcomers to the Cup Series don't do well at Martinsville has always been the thing. Like, newcomers can't do well at Martinsville or like Richmond or Sonoma because you have to save your stuff there. But William Byron just did fantastic at Martinsville. He ran inside the top 10. This was probably the best Cup race I've seen William Byron run. He was in the top 10 all night long, all day long, and it ended up with a 2nd place finish for him. He probably had the only car in the field that could contend with Mark Truex Jr. at some points in the race. So props to William Byron. Willie B had a great showing at Martinsville, and that win is definitely coming. With Chad Knaus at the helm of that team has turned around. They made the round of 12 this season. They didn't make the chase last season. I think big things are coming for William Byron. If he gets that first one, I think it'll be like Chase Elliott, where it kind of open the floodgates, and he can get some and kind of rack some off. After the race, there was a fight on pit road. Joey Logano and Denny Hamlin were talking. They were kind of discussing what happened. Joey obviously not happy with Denny. Denny was kind of like, whatever, It's kind of like, it kind of reminds me of 2015 with Joey Logano and Matt Kenseth. I'll kind of get into that a little bit later. But, remember in 2015 when Joey spun Kenseth at Kansas, right? I think all would have been fine that season if Joey had just reached out to Matt and given an apology or said something about the crash instead of just going like, he deserved it. He was blocking me. That's how racing is. Matt obviously took exception to that, and then obviously Joey cutting across his bumper at Talladega didn't help, and then Martinsville happened. So I think Joey was trying to be kind of like, I don't want to start anything here. I don't want something like that to happen again. I'm going to go talk to Denny. And then Denny started going, it doesn't really matter, And then as Joe was walking away, I want to say he gave him like a tap or a pat on his shoulder, but it wasn't really a pat. It was more, I wouldn't call it a shove either. It was kind of just like, I don't know what to call it. It wasn't a shove and it wasn't like a pat. It was somewhere in between. So Joey did that to Denny. Denny took exception, kind of stood there for a second, gathering his thoughts, and then said, no, and then went to Joey, and then they started, kind of going at it, and then crew guys got involved. One of the 22 crew guys took Denny by the back of his fire suit and threw him onto the ground, which I thought was completely unnecessary, and I think that's part of the reason why they have to just get rid of just pit crews getting involved in these fights and all together, because it's stupid and it's going to cause more injuries than not. If you just let the two drivers go at it, they're not going to hurt each other. Have you seen drivers fight? So that happened. Joey and Danny started, bickering at each other once again before being separated. After the race, Joey tried to give his side. Denny gave his side to the Martinsville fans. They put Denny's interview over the loudspeaker, which was probably the best thing they could have done, because it was a pretty fantastic interview. Denny basically tried to mock Joey and did a great job. He had a really good Joey Logano impersonation. He got the teeth involved. He didn't get the squints really, but he got the teeth, which I thought was pretty cool. And so he's basically just saying how Joey did what he always does, is that he says, oh, you want to go? And Danny's like, well, I'm right here. We could go. And then Joey did the whole, kind of pat and shove on the shoulder and then walked away and ran behind some crew guys, is what Danny described it as. And then when they asked Denny about the content with Joey, he said, oh, well, Joey would probably say, that's short track racing, which I thought was really funny because, he did it almost perfectly, which I thought was really funny. So props to Denny Hamlin on that, but something I want to talk about with Denny Hamlin, right, is that this is why he doesn't have a championship. That's not a knock at Denny Hamlin, because Denny Hamlin's a really good race car driver and one of the most underrated Cup Series drivers in history. The man's won Southern 500s and Daytona 500s, and all these races that are big elite races, and he doesn't get half the credit he deserves. And I think the reason why Denny Hamlin doesn't win championships is because he lets other things get to his head too much. You think it back to 2010 when he and Harvick had some issues at Dover and they started fighting with each other during practice while Jimmy Johnson was on top of the speed charts. That's not what you do in a situation when it's you three battling for the championship and you let the guy who's won 4 straight go out there and kind of be by himself while you two underdogs are bickering in the garage. And then obviously Denny Hamlin kind of gave up at Phoenix in 2010 when they ran out of fuel, and then they spun out and the toe was knocked out at Homestead, but they never checked the toe on the car, and Denny never said, hey, we should check the toe on the car. Obviously, I think now if that were to happen, he would say, hey, let's check the toe on the car. But he kind of lets the small things get to him, and he doesn't see the bigger picture, which is something a lot of drivers have done. Kyle Busch, I think, is notorious for this. You think back to Kyle Busch's career. He can start out really strong, but I think the final 10 races of the season has always been Kyle Busch's worst part of the season, except for 2015 when he got 13 races or so off. And then, obviously he was better at the last 10, because I think what kind of happened was, since they cut the first 12 off in 2015 from Kyle Busch's season, then it kind of was like it pushed the season back, and then the 600, I think that was his first race back. The 600 was basically his Daytona 500, and the end of the race, or the end of the season, Homestead, was basically like, a few races before the chase, which has always been when Kyle Busch has been the best in the season. I feel like the longer Kyle Busch's races in a season, the worse he gets. I extremely feel like the final 10 races of the season is Kyle Busch's statistical worst stretch of the season. I feel like the same could be applied for Denny Hamlin. This season has been great for him. He has 5 victories on the season. He has the second most wins in the Cup Series this season behind his teammate Martin Truex Jr. He is one of the favorites for the title. If he can keep a calm head and don't let the Joey Logano stuff get to him, he doesn't need to go out there and wreck Joey or run Joey in harder. He's over. He doesn't have to go do any of that stuff. You're both fighting for a spot in the Final Four. Don't do anything. Just, Denny, please listen. I know you're not watching, but please just listen to what people are probably trying to tell you. Don't let this get to you, okay? You're too good of a race car driver to not have won a championship in your career. You deserve this championship this year. Go out there and win it, please. I'm rooting for you. I'm rooting for you, Denny Hamlin. You are probably my pick in terms of my heart. Obviously, at the beginning of the season, I picked Kyle Busch, so I stayed with him in terms of brain. But in heart, I want Denny Hamlin to win. Hopefully that doesn't affect Denny Hamlin's rest of the playoffs, and he could get into the Final Four and go out there and battle for the championship. So to talk about giant spoilers, which I do, it seems like every week, because I have, once again, probably the worst part of the package to me is the giant spoilers. But so at Martinsville, we had 6 lead changes. Okay, you may be like, what's so wrong about that? Yeah, well, that 6 lead changes was among both races this season. The one in the spring had 3 lead changes. The one here the one here last weekend had 3 lead changes as well. That adds up to 6 total lead changes this season. Last season's fall race had 11 lead changes. Last season's spring race had 11 lead changes. So that's almost double what we had in total this season at Martinsville, which is sad and pathetic. And the reason being is that giant-ass spoiler on the rear of the car. Think about it this way. That spoiler is used for drafting. It creates a huge hole in the air so that on a straightaway, you can suck right up to the car behind. At Martinsville, you're not drafting. The whole thing of Martinsville is not draft. You don't draft at Martinsville. So why do we need a drafting spoiler at Martinsville? Okay? I went through the Gen 6 seasons. Okay? This is eyeballing. This isn't official. This was just eyeballing and a quick kind of skim through. In 2019, there have been... I'm going to start with the positive first about 2019, okay? Because I have ragged on this season a lot, right? I want to start with something positive. Even though I don't like the package, I just want to start with something positive, okay? In 2019, there have been 12 races, I believe, with 20 or more lead changes, okay? Last season, I think there was 7. In 2017, I think there was like 7 or 8 as well, okay? Now, 2019 ties for the 3rd most in the Gen 6 era. It's tied with 2016 and 2015. It is less than 2013, which has like, I think 18 or something, and 2014, which had like 20. So that's good, you know? And the tracks that had it are like, you know, obviously 3 of the plate tracks, or 3 of the super speedway, sorry, they're not plate tracks anymore, and Kansas, and Chicagoland, and Vegas, and stuff like that, you know? Now on the flip side, so I mentioned 12 with 20 plus. We've run 33 races this season. 7 have had single-digit lead changes. Okay? That is 9 or less lead changes. Those 7 tracks, Martinsville twice, Richmond twice, Pocono, and the 2 road courses. Now, before I go any further, I want to say that the trend normally is that the road courses do have single-digit lead changes. It is typical for that to happen. But for it to happen twice at Martinsville, twice at Richmond, and once at Pocono is absurd. I think before this season, Pocono never had less than 10 lead changes. I think 2019 broke that string. I think 2019 gave Pocono its first ever single-digit amount of lead changes. It broke the Martinsville record twice. It tied the record twice. You know, that's crazy, man. Okay? Now, to go with that, ready? In the Gen 6 era, that is the highest amount of single-digit lead changes at racetracks. The least amount goes to 2013, I think, with 2. I think 2014 had 3. Or is it? It's those 2 are 1-2 again. And then 2018, I think, is tied with 2014 at 4. I think they're tied for 3rd. So, once again, the package works where it works. And where it doesn't work, it sucks. If if there were tracks where we could absolutely 100% say in 2020 we're going to cut off the spoiler, I would say most definitely ISM, probably Auto Club, Martinsville, Richmond, Dover for sure, Pocono absolutely, Sonoma, where else? Loudon, Indianapolis, even though Indy sucks no matter what. This season was terrible. Watkins Glen, that's already 10 tracks. Maybe Bristol. I mean, Bristol hasn't really been affected, but I mean, Bristol was good in 2018, so we'll cut off there too. Maybe I'd say Darlington. 'Cause Darlington is better low downforce in my opinion. That's already 12 tracks. Charlotte Roval for sure because that's another road course. We don't know about Homestead yet, but I'm gonna say Homestead's gonna be like Atlanta, where it would probably be better if you cut off the spoiler. So I don't know. There's probably like 13 tracks on the schedule where you can say, hey, we should probably definitely cut off the spoiler. There's probably like 5 or so where you could say, maybe Atlanta. I would say kind of put it on the more or less kind of like, yeah, probably, but not necessarily yes. I would say Vegas is kind of like the maybe because the spring race was better than the spring race in 2018, but the fall race was worse than the fall race in 2018. So that's kind of that. Michigan is kind of because it's better in terms of passing numbers, but they're kind of single file. Chicagoland is kind of like, well, it was good, but I mean, 2018 was also good because Chicagoland is just a good racetrack right now. So that also, and then Kansas because I mean, like at nighttime it was good, but then when it wasn't nighttime it sucked. So I mean, like, like that's kind of And then tracks where maybe it should definitely stay. Kansas if it's at night. I mean, I don't know how to say that. Texas and Kentucky, I guess. I mean, I don't know. So it's just kind of like it works at the intermediates, but at tracks that are unique and different, it just doesn't work. And that's why I say we should just have different size spoilers, at different size racetracks. Hey, if you're an intermediate racetrack, if you're Kansas and Kentucky and Texas and whatever, you could have your 8-inch spoiler all you want. Your giant ass spoiler if you want it. Just do that. But, dear God, if you're a shorter racetrack or a road course or a track that doesn't benefit from high downforce, dear God, give you a 2-inch spoiler or a 3-inch spoiler. I'll even go with a 4-inch spoiler. We cut it in half. I don't even need a 2-inch spoiler. 4-inch spoiler would be perfectly fine with me. Okay? It's just absurd. I mean, if there was, I know they say we don't want different packages because of the cost issue. And they're like, we don't want, teams to have to spend money. How much does a damn spoiler cost? It's a piece of, what is it? Plastic carbon fiber in the rear of a car? How much does it cost? You can just take your 8-inch spoilers and take a saw to all them. Like, what do you need? How much money are you saving them by running the same spoiler? Do spoilers cost millions of dollars? Is this something I've never been told? If they cost millions of dollars, just don't run a spoiler on the car then. Like, what? How much do spoilers cost? They have to be like $5. Like, come on. Like, you're telling me that we're not going to run a different spoiler at Dover or Pocono or Martinsville because they cost too much? How much do they cost? I want to see a figure on how much spoilers cost. Like, it doesn't even... What? It's like a piece of plastic on the rear of a car and they're like, well, can't change that. That'll cost too much money to cut that in half. What? What are you on about? Like, there has to be a way to fix it. There's no way we can run at Martinsville and Richmond and Dover and Pocono just like we did this season. There's no way. There is no way you can say everything's fine. You can't. It's like how in 2018 you couldn't say everything's fine in Kentucky and Texas. Theoretically, it was a track issue, yes, but you couldn't just say, this is fine, we'll keep it like this. You have to change something. You've ruined... Now, the reason I'm getting so offensive about this, you've ruined my favorite racetrack. Martinsville's my favorite racetrack. You may say, oh, well, Bristol's better than Martinsville. Now it is, yes. But when I first started watching NASCAR, 2011, 2010, 2012, 2013, Martinsville was the shit then, man, okay? That was when, like, Dover was just the top groove, and you couldn't really do anything there, and there wasn't any beating and banging. But Martinsville had all the beating and banging. Now it's kind of the opposite, where Bristol, there's better racing, and there's more beating and banging, and Martinsville's kind of just like, well, you can't get to the guy because there's a giant-ass spoiler. Yeah, that's, it's a shame. it is a shame that spoilers cost so much money that we can't run different sizes next year. I mean, apparently spoilers cost more than engines, considering we can run, tapered spacers, different tapered spacers. I guess tapered spacers cost less than spoilers because we can run 550 horsepower ones or 750 horsepower ones, different races. It doesn't matter. I guess tapered spacers cost less money, and I guess the wicker bill that they add on at the super speedways, they must also cost less money. So that's I good on NASCAR for cutting costs and making sure those spoilers don't get in the way and ruin a team's, run them bankrupt. I mean, good God, we don't want that. How? Like, come on. You've ruined road courses somehow. You've ruined short tracks somehow, and you keep saying everything's fine. You have to admit that something's bad at some point, okay? Like, you can't just go and say everything's great. Why was NASCAR so fast to be like, in 2018 this sucked, so we're going to change the package to the completely opposite? But now, since the package sucks at certain racetracks, they can't just be like, well, it doesn't suck. Like, they literally turning a blind eye to all the bad races, and they're like, see, Kansas in the spring and Chicagoland, those were great races, guys. Like, come on, you have to at least at some point admit that something was bad and change it. There is no way that you can go into 2020 with the same package at every single racetrack and think it's going to work out all right. We can't have another year of bad short track races. Look at the playoffs next season. Look at them. Ready? Watkins Glen is the third to last race before the playoffs. Dover is right before the playoffs. Okay? That's going to be two shitty ass racetracks. You're going to have a doubleheader at Pocono next season. And you want to do that? You're going to have the first ever Martinsville night race in the Cup Series. And you're going to have to spoil it like that? And then look at the playoffs. Richmond and Bristol are both in the round of one. Bristol is a cutoff race. While Bristol wasn't affected, Richmond is still affected and is in the playoffs. The Charlotte Roval ends out the second round. You don't think there's a problem there? And then you go and look at Martinsville. Martinsville will decide the championship Final Four. And you're not telling me that you can't just change the damn package for, 8 races in a season? Like, even, maybe you don't even have to change it at Dover Pocono. Maybe just change it at the short tracks. That's 6 races? You don't even have to change it at Bristol. That's 4 races. You changed the package at 4 races because of super speedways already. What's so hard to do at Richmond and Martinsville? They have 2 races apiece. Okay? And even then, let's just go to Dover then. That's six races in a 36 race season that you're changing. That's not a lot. You're already changing 4 with the wicker bill at Daytona Talladega. Why? I mean, it's pathetic. It's pathetic that they just don't. They don't care because it's their package. They don't care. Nothing can be wrong because it's their package. They've gone backwards. They've somehow gone backwards. They're back in 2015 where they're doing what no one cared about. Like, oh my god, we somehow gone back, and this is just this isn't even a rant. This is just me being amused by the situation because there is no way that they could say, oh, we're gonna keep the same package. Oh, I'm done. I've said enough. 28 minutes. I can't even go over the truck race. Fox shit the bed at the end of the race. Todd Gilliland won a race and said Kyle Busch could stay in his fucking motorhome. That's it. I'm done. I am done. Martinsville just produced too much for me this weekend. Martinsville was just too insane and too controversial for anything, for a short video. Okay. Texas is next. I hate New Texas. Hopefully the package does what it did in the spring, even though the spring wasn't really great. It just kind of was single file, but there was more lead changes because of green flag pit stops and everything. And then ISM, which will probably not be good because of dirty air. And then Homestead, we'll see how the package works at Homestead. Thanks for watching. And until next time, I'll see you then.